Okay, this video is gonna be a little different from the normal video I do. I've seen a couple of YouTubers pull similar concepts with other video game characters and anime characters, so I'm gonna try doing it with Toku characters this time. This is listing every Heisei Rider I could beat in a fight. Now, first some ground rules. It's by I mean just general, average young male, similar to most of the Heisei Riders themselves. And for another obvious reason, this is going to be them in their civilian forms, not their rider forms, because, well, that would be a very, very obvious outcome. So this will be based on civilian forms as well as their general skill set as a civilian. Anyways, let's begin. Starting off with the first Heisei Rider, Yusuke Godai, Kamen Rider Kuga. This one's kind of straightforward, really. Yusuke Godai has 2,000 skills for a reason. He's going to kick my ass. Let's see. Chochoo Sugami, Kamen Rider Agito. Now, this one's a little more interesting, because for the most part, through Agito, he essentially is a house husband, but he has shown, general skills as well, but not too much into fighting. But then again, he is pretty tough overall. I'd honestly say it would be pretty even. Well, Shinji Kido, Kamen Rider Ryuki. Shinji spends most of the time screaming, and he doesn't really know how to fight compared to some of the other riders of his show. It's unfortunate as it is, Shinji's the first one you would probably be able to kick their ass. Takumi Inui, Kamen Rider Faiz. At first, it's obvious because, well, he's the Wolf Orphnok. Spoilers. But aside from that, he's also a drifter, so he's probably gotten in a couple of fights here and there in his travels. So, honestly, Takumi's definitely in the kick my ass category. Kazuma Kenzaki, Kamen Rider Blade. Now, this one's kind of interesting. Like Shinji, he mostly screams, but he was scouted out by what's essentially is akin to a special ops group or something like that. So, he probably does have some skills in fighting. Though it's mostly in screaming and making memes, but honestly, I'd argue he'd go for a pretty even fight. Hiroshi Hidaka, Kamen Rider Hibiki. Unlike the others, this guy's he's an adult male. He's going to kick my ass. He spends most of his time training. He's going to kick my ass, actually. Not to mention the fact he is a demon and is pretty powerful too. Yes, those are Hibiki's powers, but unlike other riders where they have a rider form, Hibiki itself, his civilian form is the unnatural part, ironically enough. Oh boy. Tendo Soji, Kamen Rider Kabuto. There's a reason Tendo's so perfect. He's skilled in many things, and he is absolutely going to kick my ass. Ryotaro Nogami. Now, this one, I'd argue probably normally it would be pretty even, but because of Ryotaro's absolutely garbage luck, I would kick his ass without even trying to. I'd do it completely on accident. Wataru Kurenai, Kamen Rider Kiva. The guy's been inside for most of his life, honestly. Yeah, he's part Fangire, but it honestly wouldn't really make much if he doesn't know how to fight for the most part outside of his Kiva form. I'd definitely kick an introverted kid's ass. Tsukasa Kadoya, Kamen Rider Decade. Tsukasa's second to Tendo in terms of skill when it comes to this thing, obviously the thing he's failing at is photograph, but Tsukasa is going to kick my ass. He's not only is he skilled, he does have memories as a leader of an He does later regain his memories of being a leader of an evil organization. He's going to fucking kill me, man. Shotaro Hidari, Kamen Rider Double. Well, the first half of Double. We'll get to the second half later. Shotaro, honestly, would definitely kick my ass, because he is a detective, and he has been shown fighting criminals outside of suit before, too, in the opening. Philip, the other half of Kamen Rider Double, Philip. Now, this one I'd argue is pretty even, because Philip, with all his knowledge, definitely has a lot of knowledge based on martial arts and skills and everything. But at the same time, he is a teenager, and one teenager won't be that hard to take down. especially one as eccentric as Philip, was he might know how to kick your ass, but there's a good chance he might not even be able to pull it off some of the times. But honestly, I'd argue it would be pretty even for Philip. Eiji Hino Kamen Rider O's. Eiji would probably kick my ass, honestly. Yeah, he's a nice guy, but he's been traveling around for several years. He definitely has gotten into some fights, whether he liked to or not. But at the same time, I could imagine him actually, because of the limited fights he actually has gotten in, he'd probably be in a little more of even. Gentaro Kisaragi. Now, while he is a high school student, despite his delinquent image and him being fairly nice, he has shown that he can take quite a beating as well as fight in his civilian form very often. Honestly, he's going to kick my ass. Haruto Soma, Kamen Rider Wizard. This one's interesting because as far as I remember, Haruto is really just a soccer player, but he is pretty skilled in other areas and is pretty acrobatic too. He'd probably kick my ass. Koda Kazuraba, Kamen Rider Gaim. Now, discounting, obviously, his powers as Fruit Jesus, normally he's just a dancer, but at the same time, he's picked a lot of fighting skill after all the crap he goes through in his show. So honestly, I'd argue it would be pretty even in Gaim's case. Shinosuke Tamar, Shinosuke's going to kick, he's a police officer. He is going to kick my ass. Takuru Tenkuji. Now, yes, Takuru dies a lot, but obviously that's because his opponents are pretty strong too. The thing is, Takuru is trained in actual martial arts, and while yes, he did die at the Gamma at the first episode, he kind of managed to hold his own against the supernatural for his first encounter. Against a normal person, he'd definitely kick my ass, honestly. Emu Hojo, Kamen Rider X-Aid. Poor Emu. You can see it the best in the first Heisei Generations film. Haruto, Shinosuke, and Takuru all managed to handle their own. Emu just gets the shit beaten out of him constantly. The dude, unlike other riders, he barely knows how to fight outside of suit. I'm sorry, Emu, I'm kicking your ass. Sento, Kamen Rider Build. It's a similar case to Philip, honestly. He's smart, but his physique isn't as up to it compared to some of the other riders. But honestly, he's still pretty skilled nonetheless, and it would probably be a pretty even fight for the most part. Sogo Tokiwa, Kamen Rider Zio. Now, for obvious, as I mentioned earlier, we're not including rider powers into this, and a guy that has the powers of every previous rider would definitely kick my ass. But outside of that, Sogo's just another high school student. I could definitely kick his ass. And there you have it, a list of Heisei riders I could have beaten a fight or not. Now, this was a more interesting video for me to do. If you want me to do this again with either maybe the Showa riders or the secondary riders or other extra riders or all of the railroad riders of both 01 and Saber, just comment down below. I might do this in the future sometime. Anyways, I'll see you all next time.